Hello and welcome back for the second part of Kings, Farmers and Towns. Today's first topic will be new notions of kingship. Under this we have to see two different things. That is, the first one is chief kings in the south and the next one is divine kings. So when we talk about chiefs and kings in the towns or in south, I mean to say that by 2nd century BCE, many chiefdoms and kingdoms started to emerge in many parts of the subcontinent. And those chiefdoms and kingdoms which started developing was mainly seen in the Deccan and the farther south of India. These chiefdoms were the Cholas, the Shreyas, the Pandyas in Tamalikam, which included some parts of Andhra Pradesh and Kerala, okay, in addition to Tamil Nadu. And this chiefdoms, they proved to be very stable and prosperous. Okay, now many of the kings who were from this chiefdoms, for example the Satavahanas, he ruled many parts of the western and the Central India. Now other were the Shakas, and these Shakas were people from the Central Asian origin. And you know, what do they do to look after the kingdom? They basically take, or you know, they look for the revenue income from the distance trade. Next topic is divine kings. So what are these divine kings? It was one mean of claiming high status. It was done by the kings to identify themselves with a variety of deities. Now, one such example of divine king was the Kushanas. And this Kushanas ruled over a vast kingdom extending from Central Asia to northwest India. Now, in order to get the high status, or in order to claim high status, what did they do? They started setting up colossal statues, enormous statues in a shrine, so that people can worship them. Now they adopted the title of Devaputra, that means son of God. It was actually inspired by the Chinese rulers. And now Chinese rulers call themselves sons of heaven. Now by 4th century, we could see larger states started to develop. This included Gupta Empire. Now many of these states depended on Samantas, and these Samantas are nothing but powerful people or men. Okay, they control over the local resources, they control over their land, they control almost a very big or huge area, just like kings, and sometimes they are very powerful. And these men were known as Samantas. Sometimes this powerful Samantas who was working under one ruler, he takes a little more step by throwing up or by defeating the weak king, and he himself become the ruler. The Samanta defeats the weak king and he takes the position of the ruler. Now, how do we know about all these things? Now, these are all found in the literature, coins and inscriptions, including prashastis. Okay, and these are the important sources that reconstruct the Gupta history. Now, the Pragya Prashasti, it was composed by Harisena in Sanskrit. Now Harisena was one of the court poet of Samudragupta. Without any doubt, Samudragupta was one of the powerful king of the Gupta rulers. Now these poets, they compose poems, okay, and these poems are nothing but they wrote in praise of kings. They have written this so that people can read, people can see, people can treasure these poems, and they, by reading all this poem, they can praise their king. Okay, now the last important thing that we have to keep in mind is that all these poems were treasured as work of the poetry, but it was not actually the account that literary was true. Okay, what do we mean from this is that poems are written just to praise the king. It was just done so that they can relate their king to some divine power. Okay, that is all about the divine king. A changing countryside. It's a popular perceptions of kings. Under this, we'll try to see what people think about their kings. So now if you look deep into the inscription, we could see that ordinary people rarely left any accounts of their thoughts or experiences. But historians tried to solve this problem by examining stories contained in anthologies like the Jatakas and the Panchatantras. These stories were basically oral tales which later was written. Jatakas was basically written in Pali language. One such story was the Ganda Tindu Jataka, which describes the plight of people or the subjects of a wicked king. The king disguised himself as an ordinary man to find out what his subjects thought about him. To his surprise, each one cursed him for their miseries. They complained that they were attacked by robbers at night and by the tax collector during the day. And so people have left their villages and went to live in the forest. This story indicates that kings frequently tried to fulfill their coffers by demanding high tax. They tried other strategies for increasing the production. One such strategy was the shift of plowshare. Okay, that means the iron tip plowshare. Instead of using the wooden plowshare, they thought of using the iron tip plowshare, so that the increase will be there. There will be increase in productivity. Basically, this was followed in some fertile alluvial river valleys like Ganga and the Kaveri, and this iron tip plowshare was used so that the alluvial soil was turned or tilled to the deep. After all the strategies used or taken up for the growth of productivity, there was an increase in production. These technologies led to an increase in production, but the benefits were shared unevenly. In the Buddhist traditional stories, we could come across that the landless agricultural laborer, small peasants, as well as large landholders, they all shared the benefits unevenly. This was differentiation among the people engaged in agriculture. Here we came across a term, Gahapati. It was used in Pali texts to designate the second and the third categories. Once again, we are talking about the categories, means division of the people or the labor. All the large holders emerged as powerful figures and started to control over other cultivators. This type of division or this type of social category division can also be seen in Tamil literature, the Sangama. In the Sangama, it mentions that different categories of people living in villages can be found. For example, Velalar, the land owners, then Uzavar, the plowman, the Adimai, the slaves. All this differentiation were based on the access to the land. Here we saw that control over land was a crucial question. Next, moving on to our new topic, that is land grants and new rural elites. Here we could see that land grants wasn't practiced. Some of these were recorded in inscriptions. These inscriptions were found on stones, copper plates, etc., which was probably given as a record of transaction to those who received the land. The grants were generally given to the Brahmins or to religious institution. Most of these inscriptions was written in Sanskrit. One such inscription was land grant given to Prabhavati Gupta. She was a daughter of Chandragupta II or the second. According to the Sanskrit legal text, women were not allowed to access over resources such as land, but she had an access to land. It might be because she was a queen, or might also be possible because the legal tax provisions were not implemented equally. The inscriptions also gives us an idea that the subjects have to provide a range of produce to the king or his representatives and have to obey the new lord of the village. Granting of land was found in several parts of India with little variations, that is, from small plots to uncultivated lands. It was a heated debate among historians because some felt that it was a strategy to extend new agricultural lands, while some felt it was a sign of weak political power. After land grants, we are moving to our new topic. It's towns and trade. Under this, the first subtopic is new cities. So if you look back to the urban centers that emerged during 6th century, we could notice that these were capitals of Mahajanapadas. All these were located along different routes of communication. For example, Patliputra was located near a riverine. Ujjaini was located, or it has got land routes. Puhar has got coastal line or coastal areas for its communication, whereas Mathura was a commercial center. So just now we have discussed about urban cities, and these urban cities were very important during their time. So likewise, these urban cities has got population. Let us now see or discuss about its population. So during our course of studies, we came to know that the kings and ruling elites lived in fortified areas. But it was very difficult to find out the exact artifacts or exact things which was related or connected with the king, because at present also people are living in those or these areas except for Harappa, which was abandoned many years back. Here we found a wide range of artifacts which was like pottery, bowls, dishes, ornaments, tools, weapons, gold, silver, copper, ivory, glass, then shells and terracotta. Later on, by the 2nd century, we saw, or we can see, that short pledge inscriptions were found. These probably mention the name of the donor, specifying his or her occupation. These inscriptions also tells us about people who lived in towns. Some inscriptions were also it also mentioned about organizations or guilds, and these organizations probably procured raw materials and regulated the market. From 6th century BCE, land and river routes crisscross the subcontinent. We could find that there were sea routes or land routes beyond our extended overland to Central Asia, and also beyond seas, that is from Arabian Sea to North Africa and West Asia, and also through Bay of Bengal to Southeast Asia and China. Now the travelers and paddlers traveled on foot, whereas merchant traveled with caravans of bullock carts and pack animals. Within them, the successful merchant became very rich. Now most of the things which was sold here and there, it was not a small item or one or two things. It was a wide range of goods which was carried from one place to another. These things or the goods were salt, stone, timber, medicinal plants, and many more. But among them, the Roman Empire was demanding the most, that is the spices. Okay, the spices were demanded by the Romans, as well as textile and medicinal plants were also transported from Arabian Sea to Mediterranean. So with this we can say that our trade was not only in the subcontinent, but it was also beyond the subcontinent. Before the video becomes too lengthy, let me wind up here. So keep in touch for the final part. Thank you.